What's going on, everybody? Evan here from Evan's Detailing and Polishing, hanging out at the Renegade compound. I brought in Keenan Hupper today. He's my shop manager at my main facility over in Chilton, Wisconsin. We're going to do a full detail on this. Last year was a SEMA truck. Our previous video was all about the beginners. Today we're going to focus more on the intermediates to the professionals. All the little things that you need to watch out for and be careful on, especially when you're dealing with big trucks like this, especially on a SEMA build. You really want to make sure you're extra careful dealing with a lot of this stuff. We'll show you some of the mistakes some people have made in the past with this thing and how to correct it. But as you see here, we got our full setup. Of course, Renegade sells the kits. The kits are great for the guys to just maintain. So we're gonna break down everything an intermediate or a pro detailer or polisher is gonna do to a SEMA build or something that's going to a big show. We're gonna go everything from the beginning to the end and try to get away from all the mistakes and try to correct a lot of that stuff. All right, so first things first, we're gonna rinse this thing down. We wanna get all the dirt, dust, if there's any mud, any of that stuff, we want to get all that rinsed off first so we're not contaminating all the heavy stuff into what we're going to be doing. So we're just going to go through, start rinsing this thing, and then we're going to go into our foam cannon and start going there.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Savage APC, we're going to go ahead and soak down the tires, and since this is a SEMA build, it's a show truck, we're going to go ahead and do the treads as well, just to get them clean, get that extra good look, and then when we go back over with our rubber and vinyl for a final finish, it'll just tie the look together. You don't have a dirty treads and a clean sidewall. One thing to remember when you're using any chemicals, they are safe, but you always want to use gloves. It reduces the chance of skin irritation. You know, there's chemicals in there, safe or not, it still can cause irritation and it just doesn't feel good. So we're just going to soak it down. Once it's good and soaked, we're going to take our just a stiff agitator brush it in, and then we'll go ahead and rinse it all off. Another thing to remember on these mud tires, they have knobby sidewalls. It's a look thing. That's a one plus to this being a spray nozzle, is you can go ahead and get it good and saturated. It gets in all the nooks and crannies. It just makes brushing and cleaning a little easier. Just using the sweeping side to side pattern here. This product is safe on polished aluminum, so don't worry if you get it on your wheels. You don't want to let it sit and dry or bake in the surface, but if you get a little overspray on there, it won't hurt anything.
All right, now always remember, don't ever let any of your chemicals dry. You always want to keep them wet and keep washing and rinsing in between every step. So you don't ever let that stuff dry. The stuff even that's safe on your aluminum and your chrome and stainless and stuff might not be safe if it dries. Most of the bottles you read are always going to say, keep them wet, do not let dry on surface, that kind of stuff. But now we're going to get into the back side of the wheels here. The back side of the wheels are covered in brake dust on this thing. So what I like to use is the Voodoo X. It's an iron remover. We're just going to spray it on, let it sit for a minute, and we're going to rinse it off. It's going to help loosen up all that brake dust and all that grime. All right, now while I'm spraying this stuff on, what I'm watching for is for the chemical change to happen. What it's going to do is it's going to start to change color. It's going to start to turn purple. That's really what you want to see. Get into all these nooks and crannies in here. Try to spray the whole back side of the wheel, and then just wait for it to start changing color. Once it starts changing color, you know it's making the chemical reaction, and you know it's cleaning it up really well.
We've got the truck rinsed down. All the dust and the major contaminants, the loose contaminants are off. So now we're going to get into the washing. What we're going to do is we're going to foam cannon wash this. In addition to the foam cannon, since this vehicle is a daily driver and is a little dirty, we're going to go ahead and use a bucket method. With the bucket, we're going to foam it down, and we're going to use our mitts and go back over it. You always want to make sure you use a grit guard, and what this does is it sits on the bottom, traps the dirt here so you don't get the dirt into your mitt. Another key thing to remember is on a vehicle like this, or any vehicle really, is you want to use two different mitts. We like to use a dark one for the wheels and the undercarriage, the stuff that's going to have the most contaminants. You don't want to get that on your paint. After we get that done, we're going to go ahead and switch to our paint mitt. We're going to just do the top of the body with that, all the paint, you know, the sensitive surfaces. We're going to mix in the foam cannon. You're going to want to put 2 to 3 ounces in this, which really is a couple glugs or squirts out of the bottle of these new flip tops. In addition to mixing the foam cannon, I like to put a little bit of soap in the bottom of my bucket of water, just to add a little lubricity to the mitts when I dip it in and clean the dirt off. Once we've got it rinsed and we've got our materials prepped, our buckets are filled, our foam cannon's ready, what we're gonna do is we're gonna foam cannon the wheels and the chassis, the undercarriage suspension first, just to let that stuff kind of soak a little longer. We're gonna foam cannon from the bottom of the vehicle to the top, just on the foam. That way our chemicals aren't running down it's not, you know, it's just kind of negating the purpose of foam cannon. What we'll do is go bottom to top, so it's got a little longer to settle. We'll rinse from the top to the bottom. So that way all the dirt's running consistently down. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start foaming. Remember to always start at the bottom, work your way up to the top. Tires and chassis, and then paint bottom to top. As I'm foaming, Evan's gonna come around the truck after what I've already foamed. He's gonna scrub it using a 2-bucket rinse method. He got the job today because he's a little taller. I can't reach half this truck without a ladder, so there you go.
So what we did is we washed the whole thing. Now we're gonna rinse it down. But as you saw, we re-foamed after we washed it down and mitted it. We'll explain the 2-bucket system here in a little bit. But we mitted it all down. We re-foamed it just to make sure that we're excessively cleaning the surface. You don't wanna be wrecking these wraps in this paint. Always wash linear, not vertical. In case you do scratch anything, you don't want sunlight to be reflecting off of that. So now that we got the whole entire body washed, now we're gonna get into doing the wheels. When I go to do the wheels, I always like to start with the aluminum first, do all the aluminum on all 4, and then come back and do the rubber. So I always wanna wipe the rubber to get off all this little stuff here that you can see that's kind of still running down. The wheels are relatively clean. We still wanna make them that extra level of clean. So what we'll do is we're gonna use the soap. I use 2 buckets, one that's got soap in and one that's just got clean water in. Clean water is going to eventually get dirty because we're going to rinse our mitts over here after each wheel. So we're going to go ahead and dunk into the soap, get it on our mitt. Our wheels are still wet from when we washed. Just going to go through and we're going to wipe these out. We're just going to do the wheels now. Mind you, we're going to polish these in a little bit anyways. So we've got them all rinsed down. We're not catching any excess stuff on here. I'm just going to go ahead and wash through this whole entire wheel. And then we'll go ahead and hit the back side. As soon as I'm done with this wheel, I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna dunk and rinse to take anything off that I got off this wheel and rinse it off. So rinse it off real good. Wring it out a little so we're not carrying any of that along. And take it right back to the soap bucket. Get soap back on and go on to the next wheel. Now I'm also gonna do the inside of the wheel where we put the Voodoo before, and the Voodoo is gonna help take off all that brake dust. We're just gonna go back through and mitt through. Conveniently enough, this thing's pretty high. We can squeeze right in here. Gonna rinse our mitt back out again. Now that we got all that out, I'm gonna put it right back in the soap again and move on to the next wheel. Once we're done with all 4 of the aluminums, I'm gonna come back and rub the rubber. All right, one thing I want everybody to notice is when we were doing the underside, we didn't spray any degreaser on it. Savage is not your typical degreaser. A lot of degreasers are gonna tear up all your chrome, your aluminum, and your stainless underneath these things, and repolishing the underside of your lifted truck is an absolute nightmare. You do not wanna go down that road if you don't have to. And if you don't do it yourself and you take it to somebody, it's gonna be really costly to fix that yourself. So we recommend Savage. It is safe in this form on polished aluminum or stainless or chrome, all that stuff. Of course, don't let it dry. It may streak up your chrome. But don't use standard degreasers. Standard degreasers have a lot of harsh chemicals in them, and it will streak your stuff up. We don't want to go down that road. That's why I recommend the Savage. We've tested it, it's safe. We've used it on some of our top builds, not only in the trucking industry, but in the lifted industry as well. But now, what we're gonna go into next is we're gonna go into the rubber and vinyl. I like to hit it while the wheel's still wet. We're gonna go ahead and dress these tires while the wheels are wet, because right after, we're gonna dry the wheels out and we're gonna polish all the aluminum before we start spray waxing. I don't want to spray wax until I'm absolutely done. Polishing the wheels is going to create a lot of dust. A lot of that dust is going to end up coming right back up on the paint. And now that we've got it clean, none of it's going to stick. So that's what we want to do. We're going to go straight into the rubber and vinyl next. It's a water base, so we can put it right on. It blends real well with the water. Going to leave us a nice even tone. Now that we got our rubber and vinyl on our wheels, we're just going to let that dry, set up on its own. But we're going to wipe out the aluminum, get all the excess off. Rubber and vinyl, different than most other tire shines, is safe on your aluminum as well. That's one thing that always drove me nuts when I was at truck shows. I watch guys go and spray their wheels and mess up their fresh polish with their aerosols and stuff. This stuff is really safe. You can put it right on the wheel and it's not going to mess your shine up at all. So whether you got a fresh polish or need a polish, it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this microfiber towel and wipe it dry and get off all the excess rubber and vinyl. Always remember, peel your tags, take your tags off. Last thing you want is a tag scratching this thing up. So I'm just going to fold it into squares and I'm just going to wipe this wheel off. I just want to get this tire nice and dry and get off all this excess. But one of the things that I really want everybody to look at, especially moving forward into the polish, is this right here. Ton of excess compound in here from the previous polisher. I'm not talking bad about the previous polisher. I don't know who this person was, but nonetheless, one thing that I try to avoid is this right here. We're going to do a part of this video. We're going to show how to get that compound out of there and repolish over it and try to limit the amount of compound that we leave in there. We want to leave it nice and clean and finished so that it doesn't look like this. This is not something we want going out the door. So what we're doing now is we're going to get into polishing this wheel. Our previous video, our beginner video, we ended up sanding that wheel and we ended up going with orange and brown, yellow and green. This one's a little more advanced. You can see this wheel's not all that bad. I mean, it's pretty rough, but not too crazy bad. So we're just going to use yellow with the brown. Yellow is a little bit softer fabric. It's going to lighten up your hash marks a little bit. And then we're going to finish it with a white and a green. It's just going to help get us a little bit better finish. By not cutting as deep, we're just going to cut a little lighter and leave a little bit higher gloss. Of course, we're going to hand polish in between just to get the excess compound off. If you do have excess compound on here like this from the previous polisher, what we're going to do is we're going to use some mineral spirits to wipe it off. Just before we even start polishing, because we don't want to have to deal with all that. Try to clean up somebody else's mess before we start. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come in, wipe some mineral spirits in there. And as you see, Keenan's down here jacking the truck up for me. We always jack the wheels up. The reason we jack them up is going in and out builds up a lot of heat as you're going across, and it'll leave lines in it. We really don't want to leave lines in it. So I like to jack it up and keep a real nice even spin on it, get a real nice even finish. So what we do is I'll usually have somebody like Keenan who's working with me help spin it and keep a real nice even flow on it so we can work all the way from the outside and in. We want to transfer that heat and move it along with us, not build it up in one concentrated section. A lot of times the biggest mistake I see at shows is the guys that go in and out like this. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but I see a lot of spots where it's shinier and duller. A lot of guys are building up too much heat and then not enough heat in other spots, and they're transferring that heat in goofy directions. So we don't really want to do that. You can do that if you don't have access to a jack to move it around, but you can do that if you need to. And if you don't feel like jacking it up either, I know a lot of guys that do it that way. But I'm going to show you my way. Our way is we kind of do like a barber pole and spiral all the way in. We'll keep the wheel rotating as we're going, and we're just going to follow it right in. So we're just going to get into that. Of course, safety is number one. Full face respirators are what we're going to do. But as we start, we're going to clean up all this excess compound first, and then get into our cut and color. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put a little bit of mineral spirits right on a towel. I want to clean up the mess that the previous polisher did. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a little bit on here, and I'm just going to wipe off all this excess compound, try and get as much of it off before I go to polish. As you can see, just a little bit of mineral spirits is taking it right off really super quick. It's not really taking a whole lot of effort to wipe off. So all we want to do is just make sure we get this off. We don't want to end up, we don't know what kind of compound the previous polisher used or what they used. And I want to make sure that I'm using the stuff I want to use and not cross-contaminating and mixing in the stuff that they used. Now if you look real close here, you can see we got almost all the compound out. All I'm going to do is come back one more time and just wipe just a little more just to make sure that we got it all out, or as close to all out as we can. We're going to put a little more back in there once we start buffing here, but we want to try to get as much of this out as we can. If you need to, Q-tips also work really well. Put a little bit of mineral spirits right on the Q-tip and it'll help wipe it off real easy. So now we're going to be working on this wheel. This wheel isn't as bad as most other wheels we've worked on in our previous videos. So as you can see, I got a yellow buff suited up here. We're going to pair it up with the brown compound right here. But one thing I do like to stress with the yellows and the whites is even though I don't rake out my cut buffs with my orange wheels, I do rake out my yellows and my whites. Anytime you're going to cut with a yellow or a white, you're going to want to rake out. Of course, like I said, invest in a good rake, not screwdrivers or wire brushes or none of that stuff. Just give it a quick rake just to soften the edge and give it something to grab onto so that the compound sticks in the buff better. Since we're not using an orange buff, we're trying to leave a finer finish on this wheel than we have in previous videos. So we're just going to yellow and brown and then go into the white and green after we've thrown a hand polish in between to clean up some of the compound. But like I said, always rake when you're using yellows and whites. Never rake your orange and browns unless you get clumped up and nasty. But like I said, here we're going to use just yellow and brown, white and green. So now we're going to respirator up. We're going to start buffing this wheel. We're going to go real slow on the outer edge, and then we're going to go a little bit quicker on the inside here as we work all the way through. Now first things first, like I said, we always start at the center and work our way out. In case we hit this outer lip when we're buffing the center, we want to be able to touch it up on our way through. We don't want to screw up something after we've already done it properly. We don't want to nick and ding this up on the outside and have to come out and redo it. I'd rather work from the center out and then we're completely finished all the way through. Now, as you can see, we got a nice bright finish back. This is nice and highly polished again. Nice even finish all the way through. We don't have zigzags going in and out. We don't have a spiral going all the way through. I managed to push my heat and maintain it all the way through. Having that extra helper here really made a big difference, keeping the shine consistent all the way through. Now the beautiful thing about using the rubber and vinyl on these wheels is, yeah, we got some dust bunnies on it, but it's anti-static. We waited until it was dry. All this stuff's just gonna wipe right off. So all we're gonna do is come back through. We're gonna finish polishing all these rest of these wheels. And we're gonna come back with a clean towel and just wipe off the rubber. All right, now that we got our wheels done, our tires dressed, the undercarriage all clean, the whole body's all clean. We don't have any dust left on here. Now it's time to spray wax. My personal choice is the Renegade Products Rebel Spray Wax. A lot of people wanna take their spray wax, just spray it direct on the body. You can do that, but with this product, make sure you spray it a little lighter. The product is really heavy and thick. There's a lot more wax in this than most other spray waxes. Most other spray waxes are real light on the actual wax and real heavy on the solvents and the water inside of them. Now this right here is actually a wrap. Most spray waxes have a lot of solvent in it and it'll actually lift your wrap. This one right here doesn't have solvent in, so it actually goes across can put it right across the vinyl on your wrap without lifting your vinyl. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna spray a little bit on the towel. And then once again, we're gonna wipe linear. We're gonna wipe side to side instead of up and down. If we do end up scratching something, we don't want the light reflecting that way. So we're just gonna wipe side to side. Anywhere we possibly can. On these vertical pieces, you kinda gotta go up and down. You don't really have much of a choice. But what I do is I go on one side, flip it over to a clean side, and just wipe right off. Of course, it's a spray wax. If you don't want to wax it, you can use just a quick detailer. They also have a waterless wash that works really well as a quick detailer. But the spray wax is going to give you a nice lasting finish, a nice lasting waxy finish. So this was a full complete detail for the novice, the pro, this is advanced setup for how to detail the entire truck. It's a nice GMC, lifted. Last year was a SEMA build, wrapped, and we did a full complete detail on it. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Of course, I hope you guys are liking all of our YouTube videos and the rest of our how-to videos. Check out our channel, youtube.com/Evan Steger Metal Polishing, and of course, Renegade's YouTube channel, youtube.com/Renegade Products USA. From me, Evan, and
Keenan.
check you later.
Kind of caught me off guard. I thought I was just